Imagine your family tree, your tribe, your protection, and your fate, all written on your skin, not in books or on flags, but in lines, dots, and scars, sentences that last a lifetime. Across deserts, rivers, and cities, people carried those stories plainly. Inked symbols, raised scars, marks that spoke before words were spoken. This is a journey into those living pages, their secrets, their power, and why they still echo today. Welcome to History Echoes. Today we travel a long, braided story. From the stone temples of Kemet to the blue-black dunes of the Sahara, into bustling Sahel markets and the deep forests of West Africa. Along the way we'll meet marks that named people, protected them from danger, declared beauty, and in some places decided who could inherit, marry, or rule. You'll see how techniques differ, ink, cut, or paint, and why the same symbol could mean sanctuary in one village and status in another. By the end, you'll understand not just what these marks look like, but how they shaped lives, and why many nearly vanished only to return again, reborn in new forms. Let's begin by naming what we're looking at: tattoo, scar, or tribal mark, and why those differences matter. What exactly are we seeing when we look at these marks? Let's name them plainly. A tattoo, pigment pushed beneath the skin, a picture that sits under the surface and can last a lifetime. Scarification, deliberate cutting or branding that heals into raised lines or textured patterns. A design shaped by time and the body's own healing. And tribal marks, a broader idea. Sometimes ink, sometimes scars, sometimes temporary dyes. A social language worn on the body. Technically different, culturally similar. Across villages and kingdoms, these marks answered the same questions. Who are you? Who are you connected to? And what protections or status do you carry? Tools and textures matter. Scar lines catch the light. Pigments allow shading and curves. Henna and ash let people test a pattern before making it permanent. Sometimes the same symbol travels through different techniques. A clan sign might be carved on a child long ago, painted during a festival, and later inked as a tattoo by a grandchild. Now that we can read the alphabet, needle, blade, paste, let's follow the earliest sentences, the sacred marks of Kemet and the protective talismans they carried. In Kemet, the line between the sacred and the ordinary was thin. Gods walked in stories, and people wore those stories on their bodies. Archaeologists find traces of this in several places. On small amulets buried with the dead, on pottery painted with the same patterns, and sometimes on the very skin of the past. Marks here often had ritual weight. A sign could act like an amulet in view form, a tiny symbol that invited a god's protection or declared a vow to a temple. Priests and priestesses, temple dancers, and certain healers sometimes carried specific symbols that linked them to a god or cult. Those marks were public identity and private prayer in one. For warriors and travelers, small signs could function as talismans. A visible contract. I travel under this protection. Some marks repeated motifs from the night sky, echoing stars and celestial cycles. A visual prayer against misfortune. Imagine a mother pressing soot or ochre into a tiny line, whispering the name of an ancestor. A private blessing that lasted A lifetime. Techniques varied. Some pigments came from soot and mineral pigments ground into paste. Others were incised or tattooed, using fine points. The choice often depended on the mark's purpose. Permanence for a vow, delicate ink for fashion or rank. The visual language of Kemet borrowed from its art. Ankhs, scarabs, lotus forms, and constellation lines showed up on skin the same way they appeared carved in stone. That repetition helped a mark be read at a glance. Not every mark was religious. Some were status, signs tied to guilds, healing schools, or even performance troupes. What mattered was recognition. A mark named you to the community and to the gods. Beyond the Nile, across desert sands and mountain passes, other peoples developed their own visual grammars, geometric codes and clan signs that would travel for centuries. Let's cross the dunes and listen to those voices. In the wide deserts of North Africa, where distances are vast and strangers appear from the horizon as dots, identity must speak fast. Here, the Berber peoples and Tuareg communities shaped a language of geometry. Triangles, dots, vertical lines, diamond grids. At first glance, they look like decorations. But each one carries information: clan ties, home region, lineage, marital status. A repeating triangle might say, "I come from the mountain people." A line across the cheek could mean, "My family trades across the Sahara." Among many Berber groups, women were the bearers of these symbols. Their faces became living archives, tattoos placed on the chin, forehead, or cheeks, each pattern a chapter in a lineage that stretched back centuries. For the Tuareg, symbols often connected to mobility and status. A mark could indicate whether a man was from a noble warrior class or a learned artisan community. When your life is tied to long-distance caravans, a small sign on your skin carries the power of recognition across vast lands. Geometry here isn't random. It echoes the environment. Dunes forming arrow shapes, desert grasses creating zigzags, stars arranging themselves into perfect symmetry. The land taught the symbols. People simply carried them forward. And these patterns didn't stop at the skin. The same visual code appears in rugs, pottery, silver jewelry, and leather work. A pendant, worn around the neck, might carry the exact shape tattooed on the hand. Body and object mirroring each other. Marriage rules also appeared in marks. Some motifs signaled who a woman could marry, or which families shared ancestry. A single geometric element could quietly guide alliances, inheritances, and social boundaries. So, from the deserts of the north, we follow the wind southward, into the forests and kingdoms of West Africa. There, marks became sharper, deeper, sometimes more ceremonial, shaping identity, community belonging, and even the destiny of a child. Let's move into those stories. In the Sahel, where cultures meet across trade routes and kingdoms, body marks became a powerful introduction. Among the Hausa and neighboring communities, a few lines on the cheek could speak louder than any greeting. These marks tied people to extended families, to towns, and to the authority of their lineage. They served as quick recognition, a way to say, "I am from here," even before a traveler opened their mouth. For many Hausa women, certain styles held beauty value. Marks placed with precision to frame the cheekbone or signal maturity. They weren't just identifiers, they were aesthetic choices shaped by tradition and local taste. Others carried protective meanings. In some communities, a small mark placed on a child's face was believed to help shield them from evil forces or spiritual kidnapping, a gentle security stitched into the skin. And in the days of long-distance markets, Kano, Katsina, Zaria, identity could be a tool of safety. Elders recall times when a familiar set of lines could grant trust, open a compound gate, or assure protection during trade caravans. These marks traveled with people, from farms to markets, from family homes to courts. They echoed ancestry while adapting to social needs, beauty, safety, belonging. As we move further south into forest and river kingdoms, marks become even more symbolic, shaping identity, destiny, and sometimes life and death decisions. The story deepens as we enter the heart of West Africa. West Africa carries some of the most complex mark traditions on the continent. Marks that name families, mark achievements, seal oaths, and shape destinies. From Yoruba towns to Igbo kingdoms and Nupe communities, the skin became a record of history. In Yoruba culture, Ila often appeared as fine, deliberate incisions placed on the cheeks, or sometimes the forehead. These weren't random cuts. Each line corresponded to a town, a lineage, a household, or a vow. In some places, an Ila signaled that a child belonged to a particular ruling family, or that their parents had made a protective oath with the ancestors. During the era of Yoruba city-states, marks could determine civic belonging. In times of migration or war, a single line could confirm whether someone was a citizen of Oyo or an outsider. These marks served as both identity documents and spiritual signatures. For many women, Ila also held beauty value. Subtle lines framing the face, emphasizing confidence and adulthood. Some marks reflected family stories. A child healed from a sickness, a vow fulfilled, or the honoring of a revered ancestor. But across the Niger, in Igbo territories, marks took on an even more ceremonial aura. The Ichi marks were among the most respected in West Africa. Worn by titled men, and in some regions, priestly lineages, these marks symbolized achievement, integrity, and ritual responsibility. They weren't simply identity, they were earned, carrying moral weight. To wear Ichi was to be recognized as a person who upheld the laws of the community, someone trusted to judge disputes, maintain shrines, or lead rituals. A man without Ichi might be strong or wealthy, but a man with Ichi was respected. And the story continues with Nupe communities, where marks often held spiritual and medicinal roles. Lines used to protect children, symbols connected to healing practices, or patterns marking one's clan. Across West Africa, every mark lived inside a web of meaning shaped by the town, the era, and the family. But these meanings were never fixed. The same pattern could mean nobility in one village, protection in another, and beauty somewhere else. Marks shifted with time, through wars, migrations, kingdoms, and colonial pressures. What remained constant was this truth. In West Africa, the skin was never just skin. Look closely at the patterns. Every line and curve is intentional. Some circles mimic the movement of the stars, while parallel strokes echo migration paths or journeys taken by ancestors. Many designs were inspired by nature. The triangles of desert dunes, the flowing lines of a river, or the geometric rhythm of a weaver's loom. The tools shaped the art. Scarification used sharpened blades or thin knives to etch the skin, creating raised patterns that catch shadow and light. Tattoo artists used needles, thorns, or metal points with soot, ink, or plant pigments pushed beneath the surface. Each method produced a different visual language. Raised scars gave depth and texture. Pigments allowed shading, curves, and intricate detail. These designs were not improvised. Artists trained for years, learning how to read skin, how to mix pigments, how to place marks in perfect symmetry. In some regions, these skills passed quietly from parent to child, guarded like sacred knowledge. Precision mattered. A single misplaced line could change the meaning entirely. New powers arrived with new rules. Across the continent, colonial administrators, foreign courts, and missionary campaigns reshaped daily life. And with them, the language written on skin. In some places, visible marks were discouraged or outlawed, not always for uniform reasons. Officials feared anything that marked difference. Missionaries called many rituals pagan, and urban life offered anonymity that could protect the marginalized, but also erase tradition. The result was uneven. In towns near posts, you might see marks abandoned within a generation. In remote villages, traditions quietly continued. In other cases, communities adapted, moving the pattern off skin and into clothing, beadwork, hairstyles, or ceremonial objects, where it could survive less visibly. Families learned to hide or disguise marks. Some elders told of secret rites held at night. Others switched to symbolic versions, wearing a patterned cloth that secret friends recognized. The motif survived, even if the cut did not. This loss was often painful. Marks were not mere ornament. They were legal, social, and spiritual documents. To see them erased was to watch a language go quiet. Yet the story is also one of resilience. Patterns migrated to new places, waiting for a time they might be claimed again. As the 20th century turned, hearts and artists began to look back, to revive, reclaim, and rethread these symbols into modern life. And the young people choosing how to wear their past today. Tattoos and tribal marks are more than decoration. They are walking libraries, records of belonging, survival, and faith written in skin. Some marks faded under pressure or were hidden away. Many returned, re-inked, reimagined, moved into cloth, beads, and pixels. If you lean close to a single line or dot, you may find an entire people's story, a map of movement, memory, and identity. If this moved you, like and subscribe for more history echoes. Tell us below, which mark surprised you most? Watch next, History of Lip Plates. Link in the description.